Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Braden, Tim, Second Legacy. You are amazing, and today we have got to talk about one of the best cases of misinterpreting the Second Amendment on media record. This is actually really interesting because he attempts to make a good faith argument. He's just wrong. And of course, we're talking about Jon Stewart. Make sure you send this to everyone that you know because we are about to tear this asunder and set the record straight for the two-way. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. Tim, this right here, my man, this actually might be the best case of misunderstanding the purpose of the Second Amendment that I've ever heard.
No, he actually got it right at the very end, though.
Well, at the very end.
He just doesn't know he got it right.
He accidentally stumbled onto it right at the end.
Yeah, but he still didn't realize he had gotten it right. He contradicted himself, got it right, and didn't catch it because he's a leftist idiot. I mean,
yes, he is a little bit of a lefty. But the interesting, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. The interesting thing about Jon Stewart on this is, again, the way he delivers this, he's actually trying to make a point from a position of intelligence and informed history, right? The only problem is he's completely wrong in so many ways. So, Tim, this is a little bit different this time because this time you've watched the clip. So we both watched it. Let's just both do, the stop when we want to jump in on something. But I think there's a lot to break down. So if I have your blessing, let's hit that play button.
Yeah, go ahead.
But at least the Constitution remains intact and is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment.
The Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment.
Guns don't protect our free speech. Our free speech is protected by the consent of the government.
Already.
I mean, come on. Guns don't protect free speach. I mean, because, the Founding Fathers just put the Second Amendment in there just by happenstance. Matter of fact, most of them probably don't even realize it was there. It just kind of snuck in and it had no real purpose or meaning. Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to be left on the cutting room floor, but it just made it in there.
Apparently he's never read the Federalist Papers, but let's just talk about.
Yes. Let it out. It's Friday morning. Let it out. You've got the Trump hat on. The polls are switching. It's Trump Nation right now. Let's go. Come on, let it out, baby.
He is literally saying that we, the people, allow the consent of the government is what protects the First Amendment. Okay.
Well, he says that in a second. Yeah, he says that in a second. Right.
Yeah. So the consent of the governed. Okay. So what happens when the government doesn't have our consent, John?
Exactly.
Maybe that's why they wrote the Second Amendment. That's how we get the consent back. You almost had it, sweetie. You almost had it.
So close.
He gets closer, though. He gets closer.
He does get closer. Let's let John catch up because me and Tim are so excited. Let's let John catch up, though.
Governed, laid out through the Constitution. It's not based on the threat of violence. It's based on elections, organizing, referendums, a judicial system. Our social contract offers many, many avenues to remedy these issues and allows sides to be heard and adjudicated. Guns, from what I can tell, seem to mostly protect the speech of the people holding the gun.
There it is.
Of intimidation.
Boom. Stop it. Pause that.
To thunderous applause, he gets. Everybody was like, he understands now.
He understands, kind of.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, no, he doesn't. I would like to just set up camp on something that you said, which is the most distilled down way to defeat this argument on the planet. What happens when the consent of the governed is ignored?
Right.
It is the easiest thing on the planet. Okay. Yes. Do we have a system in which our government does operate under our consent? Yes. Do we have lots of different ways to address our grievances outside of violence and rebellion? Yes, many. Is it a pretty good idea to have something in the back card or like a back pocket? Maybe if the government decides we're not going to consent we're not going to give in to your consent anymore. We just don't care.
Yeah. We're in charge and you're the subject. You're subjugated.
But Tim, it's never happened. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's never happened before in human history.
No.
So we're all in hypothetical land.
Yeah.
You think that could maybe be it?
It could be it, because there's zero history of governments, subjugating the population and, killing them, taxing them to death, stripping them of any rights, just randomly imprisoning people, political dissidents. That never happens. Never happens.
In fact, the term gulag is actually a snack.
Yeah, it's like a Lunchable in Russia.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a Russian Lunchable. That's exactly what it is. Because gulags, that's exactly right. And concentration camps, those were really just study rooms.
Yes.
They weren't actually meant to destroy anyone that goes against the state, because the consent of the government didn't matter anymore. It was just study hall.
It's kind of like what the left proposed during COVID. Just a little re-education. I mean, you actually had the German chancellor talking about camps. She actually said, if you don't take your jab, you should probably be put in a re-education camp. The
Canadians
Germans
did that. Australians did that. I think a lot of people did that.
But I mean, the irony of the Germans talking about putting people in camps.
Oh, I get it. Because the study hall.
Yes. And so it's just, this is how they think, right? This is an apologist for the state, dude. And all he can, I don't know if it's naivety or if it's just ignorance or if it's a combination of both or what, or maybe it's just money. Maybe they're paying him enough to be stupid. I don't know. But you can't sit there with a straight face and say governments always act in the best interest of the people. And that's why our founding fathers had the foresight to say, okay, look, and they had this conversation. Should the Second Amendment be the first or should it be the second? And they had that debate. And like, okay, so you should have the right to free speech. You should be able to air your grievances. You have the right to vote. You have all these other rights that are enshrined in our Constitutional Bill of Rights. And should all of that fail, go to item number 2. And item number 2 is never about hunting.
Nope. It was about preserving freedom.
Right. That was so you could throw off the chains of a tyrannical government and reestablish order and reestablish the Constitution. Now, is that a great thing to do? Absolutely not. That's why we don't do that. But is that to say it can never come to pass where we would need to do something like that? Things are looking pretty sketchy lately. So,
all right. So, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, I'm done. I mean, it's just that you got to have that safety valve. You got to have that. If A doesn't work, you got to have plan B. John's content 100%. With going with plan A and trusting his government explicitly.
That's exactly where I was just going. So here's the interesting part about this, right, guys? You have to understand that the actions that we've seen, like, for example, free speech dedicated zones. Yeah, we call that America, but the left tried to make that into a little cordoned off area where you wouldn't offend anybody during COVID. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. I mean, they put it literally in a physical confine that said you can take what you want over there, but you can't say it over here. Okay, that's one thing. Then they want to ban ARs. They want to ban guns. They want to do all of these things. Excuse me. They want to do all of these things, but you have to understand the root cause analysis of why they want to do that. They want to do that because they believe that the government would never do anything bad to you. It's normalcy bias. This is 2024. A government would never do that. Why do we need guns? Let's just move on. Yeah. That is literally the mindset. And you're seeing it in action here with Jon Stewart, because he's going down the road of a lot of correct things. For example, as I mentioned, we have lots of ways to air our grievances. We have multiple fail-safes, the way to solve problems. We do have a government that's run by the consent of the governed. But if all of those things fail, what then? It is that simple. They do not have an answer for that.
No, but
that's it.
But violence is never the answer, Braden. Unless you want to get rid of an unwanted pregnancy, then it's okay. But other than that, violence just isn't acceptable.
Well, that's just a medical procedure. It's a decision between a woman and a doctor, you bigot.
The hypocrisy of these people is staggering. And these are the same people that generally hate the government, but then sometimes they like the government when it's in their best interests, but then they go back to hating the government. The left cannot seem to plot a course and follow it. They're all over the place. They're more or less influenced by their political opposition. So if the Republicans say this, the left is naturally going to take the exact opposite position.
Oh, 100%.
And so it's silliness, and it's got to be somewhat based in just being outright naive. Because he lives in a bubble. He lives in a wealthy bubble in the hills of Beverly Hills, and he just doesn't understand the reality of. I doubt this guy even shops for his own groceries. Bastion. He probably has no idea gas is $4 a gallon. He probably has no idea it cost him $5 to get a dozen eggs today. So I think he's just in a bubble. He doesn't realize that things like the Bundy Ranch took place. He doesn't realize that the battle for Athens took place in the 40s. He doesn't realize that the government carried out experiments on the American people, that they interned Japanese Americans in prison camps during World War II. There is a long list of things our government has done against its own people. We've detonated over 900 nuclear weapons on our continent alone and irradiated the entire place. And then the Russians did the same thing to Europe. But yet he wants to trust this same government. It's just mind-blowing.
The thing is, so I think this is the really fine line. This is a really important distinction. It's not go all the way to anarchy in this argument. It's not go all the way to anarchy.
I'm not an anarchist.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying in this argument, it's not what we're talking about. Okay. What I'm saying is,
don't call me that. Commie.
Oh my God, commie. We don't go all the way to anarchist. But we also don't go all the way to complete government control. The sweet spot there is a guarantee of government. Hey, you do have our consent, and we do have lots of ways to solve problems, but you best not step out of line. Because intimidation, Tim, hey, that sounds what he's about to say. Let's get back to the clip.
Oh, yeah, there's more.
It's a tool of intimidation. And if I may finish, listen, motherfuckers, I'm not done. It is a tool of intimidation, and one that I think is actually being irresponsibly and recklessly invoked because some people in your crowd thought they might have been shadow banned by Facebook. I mean, for God's sakes, you guys are in Butler, Pennsylvania. The whole reason you're there is because some fucking asshole with an AR-15 tried to permanently litigate his vision of this country's free speech. That's why you're there. The whole point of a society is guns don't decide it. I would prefer at this moment not to trade in a government that offers me many remedies for my concerns, legitimate or illegitimate, for a situation where my rights are determined by how many militia members agree with me. The country ain't perfect.
So let me see here. His justification for taking guns away is criminal behavior.
Correct.
So he thinks that the guy was just up there exercising his Second Amendment. That's what the Second Amendment was all about, that it was just for political assassinations, that if you don't agree with somebody politically, just off them. That's why the Second Amendment's there. That's not our argument, John.
Not at all.
He was a murderer.
Not even close.
He's no different than the tens of thousands of murderers that roam New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. They're everywhere. And that is not justification for saying, well, you don't get your rights anymore. So because you take a million people and a handful of people in that million people do something criminal, you don't take the rights away from the others just because 10 can't behave themselves. You punish the 10 and protect the rights of the many.
All right. So really good pick on the criminality piece, focusing on the criminal, because again, he's blaming the fact that Second Amendment exists for a criminal trying to assassinate a former president and probably going to be a future president.
He's just conflating issues is all he's doing.
He's conflating issues. But at the end, he gets to something really important. I don't want to trade in the government of which we can figure out our issues or differences, either rational or irrational, to the person who has the most guns. That is absolutely incorrect assessment. That is not at all what the Second Amendment is. That zero. It is. He goes so far off the rails on that part because what he's implying, guys, and this is a really key point you have to understand. He's implying that the version of the Second Amendment that you and I and Tim believe in is that if we have the most guns, then our segment of the population is going to be heard the most from our free speech. That is 100% false.
If that were the case, Braden,
we'd have a lot more opinions.
Out of the last 16 years of U.S. government, the Democrats have been in charge 12 of them. Now, if the guns decide elections and violence decides elections, how did the Democrats wind up? Because he's saying that we do it to the Democrats, that we, the conservative gun owners, are going to impose our will on the country. And because we have more guns than everybody else, then we're going to get elections decided the way that we want them. Well, that ain't what's happening, John. You've been in charge for the 12 of the last 16 years. If it were guns that decides elections, it would have been reversed. It would have been 16 for 16 in our favor. It's not how this happens.
Actually, we'd have 100% winning record because we've got most of them. It just flies in the face of logic. It doesn't even make sense.
It's an emotional argument. He's out there making comedic gestures and trying to get the audience to respond to him. It's all for drama. It has nothing to do with basis in reality, fact, or anything. It's all theater. And he's playing theater with your rights. And he's trying to use theater to get you to surrender your rights.
In a very easy to defeat way, too. That's another part of this. And this is one of the reasons that I jumped on this on my channel. I was excited to talk about it today with you. Guys, if they go down this road, this is how you win. Literally, it's checkmate, game over. All arguments, they will lose. If they pick up this tact as their main point against the Second Amendment going forward, the population will turn against this argument simply because it's that easy to defend our point on this. I mean, literally, it's that easy.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. He jumped the shark on that one. He didn't do it right.
He jumps the shark every time they put a camera on the idiot. I mean, the guy is...
He is kind of funny, though. I mean, like,
he's funny, but you're not laughing with him. You're laughing at him because he's an idiot.
It's kind of true.
I mean...
It's a little bit true.
And what's so funny is he's so confident in the point he was trying to make there.
Yeah,
and because the brainless lemmings in the audience with the applause line and the cue cards, applause, he's thinking he's got him won over because they're all like dolphin clapping out there. And he's like, yeah.
But I was thinking about this kind of in wrapping this point. I was thinking about this and kind of wargaming this out. Like if I was actually if he was having a conversation or any leftist or any kind of gun control advocate was having a debate with me and they said that line, I mean, like, what would be your first go-to? Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, that's so easy to defeat in so many ways. I was thinking of just the simple question of what happens if they don't listen. I mean, like, literally, it stops there. It's like, what happens if the government doesn't listen? Well, they wouldn't. Has that ever happened before? Yeah, a whole lot. Remember the whole Russian Lunchables thing we were talking about? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's happened here, too. Our government has done unspeakable things to our citizens.
Well, yeah, you got the internment of the Germans in World War I, the internment of the Japanese in World War II. You get the Tuskegee experiments. Like, you got lots of stuff that's not great.
Yeah. I mean, we were detonating bombs out in Nevada and making soldiers walk towards the blast. I mean, we've done all sorts of things to our own people. And it's and that's why we have the ultimate power of government in our hands. And that's all the Second Amendment is, folks. It's putting the power of government in your hands, not in some politician's hands. They can just decide one day, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay here. I like being the king. And that's why we have a Second Amendment. Let's say it was never going to happen, but let's say because the left just loves running with this one. Well, Trump's going to become a dictator. He's going to become a king. He's never going to step down. Yeah. Wouldn't you want your guns then, John?
Yeah, I think you would. With the amount of vitriolic hatred towards that man that I've seen from the left, like you even hold up a sign, like people charge you like rabid animals. It's crazy.
I know. It's just they don't even listen to themselves when they make these stupid arguments, or maybe they do, and they're just that dumb. It's hard to tell.
Let them keep making them.
Keep it up, John. Team. Yeah, have fun with that one, buddy, and just keep posting videos because we have a good time with them. It gives us plenty of things to talk about. Hope you enjoyed today's video, folks. Thanks for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.